Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight our guest is Brian Rouff. I hope, before the show I always try to get the guest's last name, and I forgot again, so I hope I said that right. He's the author of the book, The House Always Wins, and I actually just finished the book today. I've been trying to catch up. I got a lot of guests and a lot of books, so I'm like spanning out. And this book was good, though. I actually finished it in just a few days. It was a really good book. It's about a ghost in Las Vegas, about a couple who buys a haunted house and re-renovates it. They said that wrong, but they didn't know there's a mobster that lived there, and he ends up helping them. We're going to talk about a little bit about that, but it's based off the author's real experiences in a haunted house in Las Vegas. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about all the weird places. You don't know how haunted Las Vegas really is. For such a young town, it attracts a lot of paranormal. So we'll get into that tonight as well. And we'll have the phone lines open after the second commercial break. You can call in. If you live in Vegas or been to Vegas and have had a paranormal experience, please, after that second half, when we start taking phone calls, please call in and share that story. We'd love to hear it. And what we do every Sunday night is a World Wide Web of Weird, so we should get rolling in the show. Be with you in just a sec. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight, our guest is Brian Rouff, author of The House Always Wins. I just finished it. As I was saying before, this is the book right here. It's been well worn. Over the last few days, I've been reading it, and really good. We don't want to give away any endings tonight. Don't ask if you call in. Read the book. We have the links to the author in the Facebook page. For people listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are also a webcast. You can check us out at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup that's our Facebook page, where we show videos and pictures. You're going to see that in a second when we get in the World Wide Web of Weird. But let me bring up my lovely co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great. Excited to hear the stories tonight.
Hey, I've never been to Vegas. I've always wanted to go. And not for the gambling. It's for the haunted stuff, because there's a lot of good ghost stories from Vegas. There honestly is. All right, all the way from St. Augustine, Florida, is Rob Autry, the man himself. How you doing tonight, bud?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Yeah, I've been to Vegas 3 or 4 times now.
Guys in the chat room, if you got questions for the guests tonight, shoot them to Rob, shoot them to Jamie. They will let me know. It's hard for me to keep track. Jamie is going to be hopping in. Also, there's a Discord chat room on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network that you can go to the website and get a link to get into that chat room if you're listening. All right, well, let's do what we do every Sunday night, is the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off with some human weirdness, not some paranormal weirdness. The first 3 articles really are. But we do have some paranormal stuff, especially hold on to the end. I got a UFO video from my hometown here, but that I'm saving for the best for last. But let's go ahead and start off with the human weirdness. This is from Daily Wire. Family honors deceased 18-year-old son at wake in bizarre fashion. And I've seen some of these more kind of funerals like this happening, and it kind of freaks me out. Again, for those listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we show videos and pictures on our World Wide Web of Weird on our Facebook end of the show. For people watching on Facebook, we also play music out to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network that you cannot hear, so we'll get to that. Just don't freak out when we go quiet to commercial break. This comes from the Daily Wire. Family honors deceased 18-year-old son at wake in bizarre fashion. 18-year-old New Orleans man was honored by his family in unusual fashion after he was killed 2 weeks ago. For Rainier Matthews' wake, the family dressed their deceased son in a Boston Celtics jersey, placed a video game controller in his hands, and surrounded him with snacks such as Zebra's cakes, Doritos, and root beer. Matthew was placed upright in a recliner chair at Churbannet Labatt Gaplin Funeral Home. I probably butchered that. In Tremy on Sunday, per the family's request. The Celtics were on the TV screen playing in front of him. According to WNO ABC News, Matthew's mother, Tamika, said her son was a homebody who almost never left the house until recently when he began to walk his new dog. Matthew was also a huge fan of the NBA Boston Celtics, especially guard Kyrie Irving. Matthews will be buried on Tuesday. I've seen more of these recently, and it's weird. But if you think back to human burials way back, they always buried them with their trinkets and stuff that you must have loved. I mean, look what the Egyptians did. You know, they were burying them with their cats in jars. You know, and I mean, it seems like it's kind of like a human thing that we've done. So this may seem really weird, but when I think about it, it really is kind of along the traditions of our ancient burial rites.
I don't find it all that weird, and that's the way that they're going to remember him and want to remember him. And if they're going to view him laying in a box, you know, or this way,
I will admit, weird. If I went to a funeral and this is where it was, it's not that dead bodies freak me out. It's when a dead body, I don't know it's a dead body. You know, it's just, I mean, it looks like a guy that just could be sitting there ready to hook up on Xbox and play a game.
Yeah, I don't think it's that weird, but there's the twisted part of me that just think it's like Weekend at Bernie's.
That's the first thought that came to my mind when I saw this. And I've seen a few of these. This is the first time I think I put it in the World Wide Web. I don't know. I might have had one before. I don't know. But it seems like this is happening more and more for the younger generation. This is a way we're celebrating these young men's lives that were ended too soon is this way. It's sad. I couldn't imagine losing a child at any age. And this guy was definitely way too young to be deceased, but I guess it's a way for people to cope. And like I said, it goes back to some ancient traditions. All right, let's move on. All right, this one is my segment. This is from WFLA.com, if my article loads. These drugs are bad segments, man. Sometimes the articles doesn't want to load, like the articles on drugs. Okay, here we go. This is from Channel 8 News, WFLA.com. Police pair high on bath salts, fired gun at fireflies, mistaking them for alien lasers. Clinton County, Pennsylvania. Suspected bath salt, green lasers, and fireflies. State police say they all are part of this story that put 2 people in jail. Troopers say 30-year-old Jesse Shields and 22-year-old Catherine McCloskey were high on suspected bath salts during a bizarre chain of events Saturday morning. According to investigators, the pair from Clinton County had a bad trip and thought the fireflies were green lasers coming from aliens who were after them. State police said Shields fired his revolver in the air to scare away the lasers and then ran to a nearby home on Long Run Road in Lamar Township, where he asked the homeowner to call the cops because something was chasing them. While the person was on the phone with 911, Shields allegedly broke a window before he left the home and then went to the next door neighbor's house and broke another window there. So, state police say the owner of that home was able to get the gun from Shields, who asked if he could take a shower to get the goo off his body because it was burning his skin. Shields and McCloskey are both facing a slew of charges, including burglary, criminal trespass, public intoxication, and disorderly conduct. They were both unable to post bail, no surprise, and taken to the Clinton County prison. Oh, my God. The bath salts scare me. They really scare me what people do. And this guy had a gun, and he's on bath salts shooting at fireflies. I'm a libertarian. I want people to be able to do what they want. But these synthetic things like bath salts and that are really bad and really scary. I'm glad they really busted down at it in my area because, man, it really turns people into some crazy, weird zombie, I don't know. It's just not good. Not good.
Monsters.
Drugs are bad. Okay.
All right, let's move on. This one, last in the human weirdness story. This is from WFLA.com too, and it's about Florida. Sorry, Rob.
You
homeless,
don't say.
Yeah, homeless. And what makes this one weird is homeless Florida man with no arms charged with stabbing tourist. And I'm actually on the homeless man side, I think, on this one.
What makes that weird is this guy's picture to begin with.
Yeah. but he has no arms. A homeless South Florida man with no arms has been charged with a stabbing of a Chicago tourist. Miami police say 46-year-old Jonathan Crenshaw held a pair of scissors with his feet and stabbed the 22-year-old Caesar Colorado just after midnight early Tuesday. The Miami Herald reports that Crenshaw is a popular fixture in the area known for painting on canvases along a trendy spot in South Beach. According to the arrest report, Crenshaw says he was lying down when Coronado approached him and punched him in the head. Police say Crenshaw stabbed Coronado twice and fled. A friend who was traveling with Coronado said they asked Crenshaw for directions when he suddenly jumped up and stabbed Coronado in his arm. He was taken to the hospital. You know, it's his word versus theirs. Yeah, he's the one that stabbed him, but, you know, people can be pretty crummy to homeless guys, too. You know, they might have been being rough to him. Who knows?
Probably so, but
it's not a good idea to go up to a sleeping homeless guy in any
with no
area.
arms.
With no, yeah, he might seem not threatening because he didn't have arms. But don't underestimate him, okay? Don't underestimate him.
How does this guy feel that he got his butt kicked by a homeless guy with no arms?
He got stabbed, man. It's more than butt kicked. It's lucky to be alive. He's probably pretty Ginzu with his feet. Okay, let's move on. Okay, now we're on to some other mysterious stuff. This one is a little, again, this is more world weirdness, but I want to ask, I'm not getting the whole thing about this, but I saw this article about bananas may be at risk. It's from Unexplained Mysteries of going extinct. Well, let me read a little bit of this article here. With their appealing sweet taste and distinctive curved yellow shade, bananas are among the most popular fruits on the earth, with more than 100 billions of them being consumed worldwide. Yes. This could be set to change, however, as a disease known as Fusarium wilt I probably butchered that, has been ravaging crops in Australia and Southeast Asia, as well as parts of Africa and the Middle East. If the disease should make its way to Latin America, the country from which the majority of bananas are exported, then it could spell doom for the humble banana and as a sustainable food crop. Something like this happened before when a tastier variety of banana was wiped out in the 1950s and replaced with more resilient Cavendish, which now accounts for 99.9% of bananas sold globally. The race is now on to develop a more resilient variety of Cavendish that is immune to the disease. If you look at the broader consumption on top of exports, the banana industry is worth a massive $30 billion a year, said Gilad Grishon, CEO of Northwich-based startup Tropic Bioscience. However, people have been getting increasingly worried because the plant is heavily cloned, so if you have a disease that can kill one tree, it can potentially wipe out an entire industry. And that's the thing, they're cloning these plants, and there's no genetic variety and defense system against these diseases. But I want to know is people, I've been having this problem. I got two kids, a 6 and a 2-year-old, and they both get bananas, and I should eat them too. It's good for your heart and stuff. But we get these bananas and they don't ripen. Does anybody else have that? They're like, just stay green. Just stay green. They eventually get hard. I'm like, even the ones that do ripen, should I be eating these? What are they doing? What are they doing to bananas? Just leave the bananas alone. What are you doing what makes that not ripen? My wife says it's a gas. They use a gas to get them to ripen, and they weren't gassed. I'm like, that's still crazy. I'm like, it's not right. I don't know how many times my wife said to throw out bananas because it didn't ripen. Okay, let's move on.
We're all eating the weirdness.
I know. All right, number 5 in the World Wide Web of Weird. It's from bloodydisgusting.com. This is definitely viral. Saw a lot of people sharing this, and I love archaeology and this kind of stuff, so it's very up my alley of interest. A mysterious 6-foot-tall black sarcophagus was unearthed in Egypt. Let's please not open it, because it looks like something out of The Mummy. It really does. As reported by Science Alert, an interesting find in Alexandria, Egypt, has gone viral in the past 24 hours. A 6-foot-tall black sarcophagus has been exhumed from deep beneath the surface during an archaeological dig, and literally nobody knows who or what is inside. The site notes the 185 centimeter tall, 265 centimeter long, and 165 wide. It's the biggest sarcophagus we've ever found in Alexandria. Oh, and there's the large alabaster head discovered in the same underground tomb. Experts are assuming it represents whoever is buried in the sarcophagus that is yet to be confirmed. According to an expert on creepy things of this nature, the black coffin has not been opened since it was originally sealed over 2,000 years ago. Everybody's like, don't open it. It's the mummy. But, I think, how big it is, I've got to wonder what kind of humans in there. Let's see what it said. Let me get the translation here from centimeters. Seems pretty big. 72.8 inches tall. It's 104.3 inches long. I guess it's normal. I don't know. It seems pretty big. But it'd be interesting to know what's inside and, why was it buried there? Well, I'm an Indiana Jones kind of guy. Let's move on. Number 6, this is there was a warning that was going around social media that's supposed to be was portrayed as being from the National Park Service. This comes from this one's from Mysterious Universe. U.S. Forest Service issues statement on Sasquatch warning. The world's favorite large-footed cryptid strikes again, or at least a group of hoaxers working on his behalf. A poster resembling a boilerplate U.S. Forest Service announcement went viral this week, alarming hikers in the area of Missoula in northwestern Montana, and generally, I probably butchered that, sorry, bewildering in the more gullible among us. The ones the poster quoted above warns campers not to be alarmed in the event of a Sasquatch encounter to not take the following actions. Do not run from the Sasquatch. Do not chase the Sasquatch. Do not yell at the Sasquatch. Do not feed the Sasquatch. Do go about your business. Do take photos. I agree with, that's some good stuff. Yeah, definitely take photos. However, despite these warnings, the poster states that the most friendly Sasquatches will neither enter an occupied camp nor harm humans. Lastly, the poster instructs hikers and campers to report Sasquatch sightings near to the nearest ranger station in the national forest. This isn't the first time the law enforcement has had to step in and comment on Sasquatch and Sasquatchers. Just last year, police departments in South Carolina were forced to issue a warning against hunters from shooting anything that resembles a Bigfoot, as they most likely will be shooting a fun-loving and well-intentioned person sweating in a gorilla costume or a ghillie suit. We've seen, a lot of people get, the ghillie suit, or whatever you want to call it, that hunters are using out there. Saying, it's probably just not a good idea to shoot anything that's walking on its 2 legs, just in case.
Like Sammy said in the chat room, me and her have both heard what sounds like a Sasquatch in our back 40 in the backyard here in the swamp.
Oh, yeah.
We just heard it again the other night.
Skunk ape or something, man.
Yeah, it's like the Florida skunk ape.
Yeah.
Sounds
all right.
big.
Well, we got to get moving here. We got one more. This one is in my own backyard. I live in Michigan City, but in LaPorte County. And this video got posted. I saw it last night. It was from Friday the 13th. In LaPorte, Indiana, MUFON case 93311. And I got the eyewitness statement on here. It's kind of hard to see. I did share it on my timeline. If you type in the MUFON case number 93311, you'll find the video. And I don't play the audio of it because he swears a couple times. And there's music in his car radio, so I can't play the audio. So I have to give the description for people listening. It looks like kind of like a cigar-shaped UFO hovering very low over a cornfield. And you can see these, like, whatever, I'm guessing, I don't know what kind of tower that is in the background, but it looks big. If you watch this video in a second, you're going to see it go behind the tower. I edited it a little bit to try to speed it up. You'll see it go behind the tower. So it means it has to be pretty big, whatever it was. Let me read what the statement was. I was driving my work truck heading west towards LaPorte on West 400 South. As I came out of the trees, I saw a reflective object about 200 feet up or so moving very slowly. I approached the intersection of West 400 South and a long lane and observed and began recording at that time. I wasn't sure what I was seeing, but it was very abnormal how it was slow and it was moving. It was very large, as you see the video, and also very shiny and reflective. It made no noise. It looked like a shiny egg or pebble. It moved very close to the high-tension power lines. I watched as the object moved along the power lines from west to east, then over the farm. I watched until it was out of my view. I was driving away on West 400 South. I could see it was hovering above a farm, and in my side view mirror on my work truck. The whole incident lasted about 4 minutes. I was nervous because I'd never seen any aerial vehicle like that. You hear him. You hear the expletives. He's like, what the, you know what? On this. What I find interesting, I don't know if it's saucer shaped just because it could be saucer shaped or just seen from the size, but it is, to me, looks like a cigar shape. You see it flying over these houses too, really low. I saw in Michigan City a cigar-shaped UFO when I was 17, and it had no lights. I wouldn't say it was definitely, it wasn't shiny, though, but it flew right over our heads in the middle of the night. It was cigar-shaped, so I find this interesting. It was during, like, we had a UFO hot wave here in Michigan City and LaPorte. There was a number of sightings that summer. And I'm hoping maybe, my wife is like not hoping, she's hoping the opposite, but I'm like, maybe there's a UFO hotspot again in this area again. Maybe we're going to start seeing the UFOs again, because it was incredible what I saw. It was just incredible. And if I see something like that again, this time I got a cell phone. Because I was 17. The only cell phone I had was too big to fit in my pocket. didn't take pictures. Now he has cell phones to capture this. And this is a good one. The guy got a really good video of it. It doesn't say in this article, but I went and found the YouTube video of it. And in there, he also goes on to state in his statement that he called the local airport, and they did not issue any drones at that time. Agricultural drones were not out. They didn't have anything on their radar in that time that should have been there. There was no blimps. So nobody knows what this is. So it's pretty interesting. And that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. And I love that this was so close to me. God, let there be another UFO hot wave. Please, just don't let me get abducted, or my wife, because then she'll blame me for wishing for a UFO hot wave. But man, I love it. But
to be that far away, it looks pretty big.
It looks massive, man. It looks pretty dang big, especially when you see it behind that tower, way off in the distance.
Yeah.
My one friend pointed out, I guess there looks like there's an AT-AT from Star Wars in the background there, too. Something like the shape of it. He circled it. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of, there it is. Yeah, it's like out in the background, like an AT-AT back there. Maybe it's just a scene from Star Wars. I don't know. I don't think it's shenanigans. I think this is a real deal. The guy really got a picture. But we need to get moving here. For people watching it on Facebook, we play music out to late night in the Midlands Radio Network. You cannot hear. Don't freak out when we go quiet. We will be back with our guest, Brian Rouff, the author of The House Always Wins. We're going to talk about Ghost in Las Vegas. All right, guys, we'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Brian Rouff. He was born in Detroit, raised in Southern California, and has lived in Las Vegas since 1981, which makes him a long-timer by local standards. In 1977, UCLA graduate with a degree in communication studies and a minor in journalism. Brian has spent his entire professional career in media and advertising. In 1987, he founded his own marketing firm, servicing clients in such diverse fields as hospitality, computer consulting, and sports information. In 2003, he merged his company with Imagine Marketing and now serves as a managing partner. Brian is also a professional public speaker, having facilitated hundreds of advertising and marketing workshops. But tonight we're going to talk about his book. He's an author. The House Always Wins. I just finished the book today. I read it over the last few days. Loved it. I always try to read the books right up before the show because then it's fresh in my mind. And, man, I blew through this book. I thought I was going to run out of time, but, man, I really blew through it. I loved the book. It was such a good story. I highly recommend it. It is a book fiction, but we're going to get to our guest and talk about how he based it off an actual haunted house he lived in. So let's go ahead and get to the show. You there with me, Brian?
I'm right here.
Awesome. Glad to have you on. I want you to kind of tell the audience, I gave a little brief summary of who you are, but if you want to have anything else you want to add about who you are, how you got to, we're definitely going to get into how you got to writing this book as we go into the show, but I didn't know if you had anything more to kind of add about yourself to the audience.
Well, I could not hear your summary on the phone. I was listening to Booker T and the MGs, Time is Tight, one of my favorites. So if I repeat myself, I apologize, or if I repeat what you said. But, yeah, I've lived in Vegas for 37 years, longer than any place else. And we've moved around a bit, and my wife is a realtor, which is why we've moved around a bit. In the early 2000s, we bought a big old fixer-upper in an older part of town, which had been owned by a guy named Jack Eglash, who was the band leader for the Sahara back in its heyday. And it was about 6,000 square feet, and it needed a ton of work. And the whole family moved in, and we restored it. And that's when we felt like we brought back a ghost. So I'm jumping right into the paranormal.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got into that already in your intro or not.
No, that's
so,
what we definitely want to talk about tonight. Living the real deal. I mean, it definitely had to be the biggest inspiration. Reading this book, it made me wonder, like, what things were happening that inspired this book.
Sure.
certain themes. I'm like, ooh, I wonder what was really happening behind the scenes at that house. So,
it's not as cool as in the book,
course,
but all a fiction writer needs is just a little inspiration, and it's everywhere. But we lived in this house for about 3 years, and there were strange occurrences. I mean, there would be weird temperature changes, like you'd walk down the hall and it'd be hot and then it would be cold. Just noises and creakings and things like that. The clocks in every room would not stay accurate. And if they were analog, they would stop. I would check the batteries and put in new ones, and then it would work for a couple of days, it would stop. Cigar smoke. I smelled cigar smoke, and that made its way into the book.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, that's the way Anna, our main character, first encounters the ghost of Meyer, who's a dead. I'm not going to give away too much, but he's a dead mobster. Because you got to have a mobster in Vegas, right?
Of course. That's what I think
the
so
town
interesting.
was built on mobsters.
Oh yeah,
exactly. So, so all those things happened, and on the one hand, skeptics, and I can go either way, can say, well, it's an old house. This is what happens. They settle. The AC doesn't work properly. There's all kinds of logical explanations, but that doesn't make that interesting of a novel, right?
Right.
So I decided to take it in the other direction. I never, if it was haunted, and I have an open mind, I never got a sense of foreboding or evil or any of that type. It was more of a trickster kind of a spirit. So,
well, it's kind of how it is in the book too. In the book, he's not the ghost. There's friendly. It's pretty friendly ghost.
Yeah, he's actually a mentor.
Right.
And just like in the zombie, like Walking Dead and those shows, the really bad guys are living, right?
Right.
and that's what I wanted to. Yeah. So I wanted to do that in the book. Right. I wanted to make the really bad guy a living casino owner. And believe me, when you read the paper, there's a lot of bad guys that are living casino owners. They're pretty ruthless.
A lot of material
there. Can be.
A lot
ton of material. That's the thing I always say about Vegas is for any writer, all you have to do is park yourself in a public place and pay attention, because it's an interesting, odd, one-of-a-kind town, and you just take notes. And if people knew that writers were listening to them, they probably wouldn't talk so loud. But I'm glad they do.
Well, I know for writing, one of the things is dialogue. Making the dialogue seem real, and then one of the best ways is to kind of steal that a little bit from listening to other people and how they talk and what conversations. It makes it a lot easier.
Exactly. You want to simulate real conversation, but not so much that it sounds illiterate. Because if you ever read real life transcripts, they don't make a lot of sense because they're so accurate. On the other hand, people don't speak in complete paragraphs either, in blocks of intelligent sentences. So you want to hit it somewhere in between. The guy that was always my role model was Elmore Leonard. And I don't know if you ever read any of his stuff, but probably the most famous was Get Shorty, which they made into that classic movie.
Yeah.
And then Be Cool, the sequel. But he did a ton of stuff. His last project was a really great TV show called Justified. I don't know if you ever watched that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
I didn't know he was
I
involved
read
with that
all
either.
of his stuff. He was so good at dialogue, better than anybody at capturing that kind of middle ground. And I think I just tried to absorb it as best I could.
Well, I have trouble. I read a lot. I used to read a lot more, but with books. But what I loved about yours is your dialogue is amazingly good. It definitely it has to be to keep me to read it that quick, get through it, because that's where I'll get slowed down in a book if the dialogue's just not real to me. It's just.
I'm the same way. I mean, there's plenty of good writers. My strength is not description. It is. I'm not that great at, spending 2 pages at describing a room, which it just bores me. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I have a journalistic background, so we kind of get to the point quickly.
Yeah, you do.
But it does do my heart good to hear you say that about dialogue. I feel like that's my number one strength. So thank you for that.
It's a good strength to have in writing.
I feel like it's thanks. I feel like it's music. Musicians. I play guitar a little bit. I peaked years ago, and I never got any better. But you either have an ear or you don't.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same way with dialogue.
Yeah, you got to have an ear for it. You got to be able to write it. I've never finished novels, so I have no room to talk. But I do my amateur writing and that, and I read a lot. And I'm a critic. I could be a critic, and there's some books that I thought had a great concept, but the dialogue was just horrendous. It's like H.P. Lovecraft. Everything in his imagination is incredibly great, But I have trouble with H.P. Lovecraft because the dialogue is so awful.
Well, I think he was trying to capture stuff because he wrote like 70 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
but even
still, I think he was trying to capture that old time stuff. It's hard to get through.
Yeah.
I'll name a living guy, and I'll probably get in trouble and who am I to criticize because he sold 100 gazillion books, right? but Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code.
Oh, I'm right there with you. You got some in your corner.
Because of the dialogue.
Yep.
It was very clunky for me.
Yeah, I couldn't finish it. I never finished the
well,
only
I'm glad
book
to hear you say that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Because I've heard so many people say, "Oh, what a great book! You got to read this," and then I'm thinking, "Well, what's wrong with me?"
Well,
know?
you think about this type of show I do. I do a Paranormal Soup show. And we get a conspiracy like, "Oh, have you ever read the Da Vinci Code?" I'm like, "I tried."
Yeah.
I tried.
Exactly.
I want to get to you a little bit in the the character Meyer. I don't want to give out too much about the book, guys, but the mobster ghost in the book. Who did you kind of base him on? Did you just kind of just put it all together on your own, or did you base him off of somebody in real life?
He's actually a composite of three people, and writers frequently will do these kinds of blends. Number one, and probably the most important, a guy who helped build this town was named Mo Dalitz. Have you ever heard that name?
I have. Not familiar with the history, but I've heard the name, yes.
Sure. Well, Dalitz was one of these guys. And by the way, I'm going to give a plug to the Mob Museum out here where I did a lot of research, because it's a great place, and it's a legit museum. If people are visiting and if you've got time and you want to get away from the casinos for about 3 hours, it's a great place to hang out.
It'd be probably one of my first stops, to be honest. Like, I
there
don't
you
care
go,
about
that and the
gambling.
haunted, that and Zach Bagan's place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, Mo Dalitz was one of these prohibition guys who made a fortune running illegal, rum and whiskey and things during Prohibition. And then when the bottom fell out of that and he started getting in trouble, he moved to Vegas in the 50s, like a lot of these guys did. And one of the themes of this town is it's a great place to reinvent yourself. And that happens all the time. And what happened with him is that he became a legitimate owner of a construction company and surrounded himself with leaders of the community. And he built, in the early 60s, a lot of the iconic structures that we didn't have. The first real hospital, for example, the first real indoor mall, and a ton of these types of places where he eventually became a very well-respected and won a lot of awards and honors toward the end of his life, Rotarian of the Year, those types of things. It's a typical kind of Vegas story, and he became a really good guy, but he had this notorious past. So a lot of Meyer is based on him.
I can see.
A little bit is based on a guy that everybody knows, Meyer Lansky.
I wondered.
And it was because Lansky was also involved in Vegas, but he was very astute financially, and he invested the mob's money really well. And, that's the Hyman Roth character in the Godfather movies.
Right.
And, people can relate to him. So I threw a little of him in there. And believe it or not, some of the early days when Meyer goes back and talks about his childhood, was my dad's story. My dad grew up in Detroit during the Prohibition, and although he was not a mobster, he grew up with mobsters.
Oh, yeah.
And have you heard of the Purple Gang? It was
in the
bunch
book.
of really bad guys.
Yeah, you talk about it in the book.
Pardon me,
yeah.
you hadn't heard of them prior to...
it sounded familiar. I'm like, I think this is probably based off something real because it sounded familiar to me.
Right. Well, they all lived in those days in downtown Detroit, and they went to school together. But my dad luckily went in a different direction than they did because they didn't live that long.
Right.
But they were so bad that the New York and the Chicago mafia used to hire them to do their really tricky
and they were a Jewish mafia, right?
Yeah, they were the Jewish mafia, and they ran Detroit for probably a decade, and then. There was a lot of infighting, and plus, so many of them were killed and went to jail for, life sentences that they broke up pretty quickly. There wasn't a lot of longevity, which also is a reason my dad, lived to be 88 years old. So thank God for that. Well, I wouldn't be here today, on your radio show.
Or maybe you would be here today, but you wouldn't be on a radio show. You'd be doing something in Las Vegas mobster ways if your dad took a different path.
Absolutely. So you never know.
But it's to me,
that's
I love
who
the
Meyer's
history.
Based on.
I love the history of that. I love the history of that because I love how you incorporate that in the book. You throw in the real history, but with what you have to kind of change to make your character. But I love that you throw in the real history into the book. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, one of the other themes is we're taking this young woman who moves from the Midwest to Vegas on a whim, almost overnight, and is pretty naive. And with the help of Meyer, she becomes not only streetwise, but toughens up, which she has to do because there's as I mentioned, there's a living casino owner that wants to buy up her whole street and just wipe out all the houses to make way for some expansion of this casino. And that's the kind of thing that's ripped right out of the headlines. That kind of thing happens all the time out here.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most famous stories, which I get a kick out of, is that when Wynn was building the Mirage, which now goes back to the late 80s, there was a little old lady who had a house that was smack dab in the middle of the Mirage parking lot.
I remember this story.
And she would not sell it for $1 million. It wasn't worth anywhere near that. She wouldn't sell it for $1 million, and they eventually just put up a chain link fence around her house, and she lived out her days in her house in the parking lot of the Mirage, which I love that story.
I do too. I know that story. I think I've never been to Vegas. I want to go. I felt like I got to.
We got to get you out here.
Yes, I definitely got to go. It's definitely one of those places. And like I said, I don't want to go out there for gambling. I don't gamble with my food money, and that's how I feel.
Right.
I'm not that type. I play poker. I like poker, but I'm not playing against the house.
I was going to say you might get in a game here.
Yeah,
that could happen.
I could
but
do that.
There's so many things to do now that are not gambling related.
Right.
You could be here for a week and still not see everything.
Well, it's the haunted places that I'm interested in. I like to look up different areas. I listen to other people's podcasts and shows, and they'll cover haunted areas I've heard a number of haunted Las Vegas podcasts and that. And for such a young town, or for a young city, compared to the other American cities, man, it's got some stories and some paranormal activity in these hotels.
We're known as one of the most haunted cities in the country. I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah, but to think about that, most people think when you think about a haunted city, it's going to be the older cities. It's going to be the ones that have a long history, and Las Vegas is young. But it's the way the town
fast
is
out here.
Yeah, it's the way the town is. It's got that mojo.
It does. Everything's really compressed. You've probably heard that a number of people claim they've seen Elvis, at the old Hilton, which is now the Westgate. You've got the Luxor, which is the big pyramid we have out here. And there's a huge design flaw, which I actually addressed this in my first book, Dice Angel. What happens is that you ever been to, I think these Ramada Inns and things, they have the balconies that are open, and somebody could just jump off the top floor. Well, you don't want to do that in Vegas because so many people are distraught. They just lost, all their money, their house, their wife, everything. And there's been many jumpers over the years off of Luxor. It's a 29-story pyramid. So, you hear about ghosts there all the time. And, of course, MGM, the original MGM Grand, which is now Bally's, they claim that a number of ghosts are there based on that 1980 fire, which killed about 85 people. Yeah. So there's a lot has happened here. There's no doubt. And then when you get a little out of town, like the Boulder Dam Hotel, have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know all the stories to it, but I've definitely heard the name.
Well, my wife and I actually checked in there for a little staycation a number of years ago, and I wandered around late at night just to see what I could find, and I found nothing. I found the brewery across the street. That's what I found.
You found. Yeah, sometimes they don't bite. You get these stories with paranormal instances. You never know when they're going to happen, and the way Las Vegas is too. You don't know somebody died in your room because the hotel owners, the casino owners, don't want you to know that. They do everything. I've heard the stories of them taking bodies out of rooms because they have to shut down a room for 2 weeks or something like that if somebody dies in it. So the casino will go and have the staff take the body and go set it up Weekend at Bernie's style somewhere and leave it somewhere else. I'm like, we didn't know that body got there. So they don't have to shut down the room.
No, they cover up a lot. They cover up a lot out here. There's no doubt. The Stratosphere, that big 1,100-foot tower that looks like the Space Needle on steroids, there were a lot of jumpers off that for
I
years until they finally put up and they kept covering it up. They finally put up a fence, like a 30-foot fence just to keep that from happening.
Well, you wonder what they were thinking
You
when they
think
built
it
the
might have
Luxor.
occurred to them early on. I'm sorry?
Yeah, you wonder what they were thinking when they built the Luxor. I mean,
I know, and I don't think
it's amazing
I
building.
don't think they've fixed it yet. Right,
yeah.
it is.
No, I don't think so.
The first time I walked into the Luxor, that was the first thing I thought of was, wow, I hope there's not a bunch of distraught people up on those top levels.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you had a legitimate thought there because, as I say, that's happened a lot over the years. And I haven't been in it in a while, so maybe they fixed that problem. I don't know. I might have to go check it out.
Well, they say the 10th floor of the Luxor has got the most craziest activity, and the staff have leaked out in anonymous stories about the Luxor's 10th floor and the weird things that happen up there. And then, I mean, how old is the Luxor? It's not comparison.
Not that 25 years old, not that old.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's so
but
interesting
by Vegas
about
standards, that's old these days.
True.
I'm sorry?
But, no, you're getting right at it. That, for Vegas, that's pretty old.
Yeah, they'll be tearing it down any day now, right?
Right. Well, that's what they think. They've built. There's some of the hauntings. There's they build a hotel over an old hotel, and stuff happens the moment they open the doors because it's still the ghost from the old hotel. And that's what I think is so sad.
Exactly.
I think it's so sad historically. Some of the hotels that they just, what was it? The one, the Rat Pack were well known for being at.
The Sands.
The Sands. I can't. Why tear that? Why tear that down? It seems that would be one of the most historic locations of Vegas.
Yeah.
Why tear that down?
And great architecture on top of it, and to lose that. And then they incorporated it in Mars Attacks, right? The end of that movie.
I love that movie.
Hack.
Yes.
But you're right. They say that Bugsy Siegel's old suite is now the wedding chapel at the Flamingo. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have heard that.
Well, there's ghost stories about Bugsy Siegel in that wedding chapel, like walking around in his robes.
Well, there you go. He thinks he's still home.
Right. And so he's like, imagine you're getting ready to get hitched, and you turn around, there's this Bugsy Siegel in his robes, like, what are you guys doing here? He's probably like...
Maybe more cigar smoke, right?
Right. I've experienced the cigar smoke smell, the phantom cigar smoke. It is such a weird experience. When I experienced that was the Biltmore mansion in North Carolina, Asheville. Me and my wife were on a tour, and we were going up this stairwell. And, of course, everybody knows no smoking. And I was a chain smoker way bad back then, and this was our honeymoon. And we're going up these flight of stairs. They, curve around. It's like a little tower we're going up. And I heard this little flick of like an old-school Zippo, lighting up. And I immediately get this big whiff of cigar smoke. My wife thought when she heard the flick, she thought I was like lighting up a cigarette as soon as she started smelling smoke. I'm like, no, that's cigar smoke, and no, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to open up a cigarette in this, this huge tourist attraction. But it is weird, And we had other experiences on that tour. And it was the middle of the day. It wasn't at night. You don't have to these things don't always happen at night. They can happen in the middle of the day.
Right. They may be slightly less scary.
Rob?
I've had that same experience at the Biltmore as well.
You had that experience at Biltmore?
Yes, I have.
Really? Seriously?
With the cigar smoke? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow! Me and Rob, we've been doing this show 3 years and never compared the notes on that one. Really?
Yep.
How cool is that?
That's crazy.
So apparently it's more common than I realized when I experienced that and then put that in the book.
There's another thing you put in the book, too. We're coming up to our commercial break in about 10 minutes, but I want to get into this a little bit. And I'm sure this probably didn't happen in your home. You probably would have been way out of the home. But there's I don't want to do this where I don't give too much away. But it seems like Meyer, his ghost, is doing what they call a walk-in on Anna, the main character. And I've had investigators have had the walk-in experience. It's basically when a spirit kind of takes over their personality.
Oh, okay. I've not heard that term, but yeah, there's a pivotal scene where that happens.
Well, you kind of lead up to it. I don't want to give too much away, but you hint at it in the book. I feel like I gave too much away there, darn it.
Well, I just gave away even more, so there you go.
But that, to me, for somebody like you who isn't into the paranormal like I am, when I'm reading that, I'm like, well, this is a walk-in experience, and these are interesting experiences people really do have, and I've seen it. I've seen it with investigators, their personality change, and I want to give one scene away if it's all right. It's an earlier scene, not the end.
Give it a... Hey, listen,
one of my favorite parts of the book.
If it gets people interested, go for it.
All right, so this is a walk-in experience he has in the book. Because, Ryan, you're not a paranormal investigator. You're a writer and all that. But there's a point where her husband comes home and is, like, pretty sad. He's in a band, and it's playing for, like, I think a casino at the time.
Yeah, he's in a cover band, and he's not so happy with his gig.
Yeah, he's not happy with his gig, and he comes back home the next day, and he's like, "Oh wow, my boss changed his mind." Like his boss was telling him he needed to play these set of songs that were awful, and he didn't want to play it. He was totally depressed, and then he comes home the next day, and he's like, "Oh wow, he changed his mind. He was totally different." And you come to find out and this is after she's been talking to this ghost, calls up his boss, and basically makes him think that her husband's father or grandfather was a Jewish mobster hitman.
Member of the Israeli mob, right.
That's right. I love that. I'm like, man, that would be awesome. Like, and that's not her normal personality in the book. You take us through kind of her journey to Las Vegas, and that's not her.
Yep.
And that's like your first hint at it. And people really do have these experiences. Living in haunted houses where it's a very intelligent ghost, I'd like to say, or an actual spirit of a human person, seems to take over people, like their personality. I witnessed it.
It's interesting you say that because writers, and I have a lot of writer friends, and we all agree that when you're really in the zone, you're channeling some of these ideas and these words and everything. We don't even know where they come from. We're tapping into something that is very deep. Either it's very deep or it's very out there. And if we can just get out of the way and type fast.
That's
we've got some great stuff there.
That's
right?
my problem, Brian. I
Which
try
part?
to write. Writing fast, that's my problem. Like, I know I need to write fast because I get I remember pumping out 15 chapters to a book that never got finished. But when I pumped out those 15 chapters, they came out fast in like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Right,
and
right.
And
it's hard to capture that. It's very random when it happens. So most days it doesn't, but when it does, you've got to just hop on and ride that thing out.
But it does feel like you're channeling because it's coming out of you, and you got to get it out fast. And then when the moment I had to take a break from writing because of work and life and everything, and I tried to get back to it. It was just so hard, so hard.
It's really hard.
And that's the
I
that's
think
the
that's
hurdle
why
I can't
a lot
get
of
over.
I think it's why a lot of the great writers used to drink, right? I think they were chasing that. Not that I'm recommending it.
No.
And that's not my technique as a rule, but I think that whether it's drinking or whether it was Hunter Thompson, another Vegas guy, right? Who always said
intro to the show from the movie Fear and Loathing.
Oh, okay.
That's one of my favorite movies. That's what I was playing. I don't know why you couldn't hear me talking. I was actually giving your intro over that.
I just heard music.
That's
so
weird.
I feel like I missed the best part.
Sorry.
So, listen, if you archive this, I'd love to listen.
Well, the music part like that is archived. It plays in a rerun, but I don't archive it because of the copyrighted music. The video gets archived, but the music's not on there. I wish it could be.
Yeah.
I wish it could be.
But so anyway, I don't know if you mentioned the name of the book. It just occurred to me.
Oh, I have a couple times at the beginning. The house always wins, and that's also why I don't gamble because I totally believe the house always wins. But in this way, it's kind of a twist on words, though, too.
Exactly. All my books have been about Vegas, and I try to have some kind of a Vegas tie-in or connection with the title as best I can. And they don't build these high rises here, these big hotel casinos by giving away a lot of money.
No.
So
not at all.
In the long haul, they're not gambling at all. The odds are in their favor, except for things like you said, like poker, where you're playing, heads up against other people, and they're just taking a cut.
Rate.
They're still making money.
Yeah.
They're still making exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If I were to do any kind of gambling, it's going to be poker, me against other people. We're going to put our money in, see who wins. That's what only kind of gambling I've ever done is poker. I don't get why people. I live in Michigan City, Indiana, and we have a blue chip casino here. And they wheel them in with their Social Security checks in hand, literally. I'm not joking. Right. I mean, it's really like
no,
that.
I know.
And I'm like, I can imagine how Vegas is. I had my little taste of Vegas here, just down the road from me with that blue chip casino. But
right,
you see people just, especially the elderly people, just cranking that slot machine. I'm like, what fun are you having? Really?
And they certainly don't look like they're having any fun.
No, they look mad and angry half the time.
I'm sure they are.
Well, I think that's.
And then,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, some of the ghost stories you hear out of Vegas is people seeing elderly ghosts, like at the slot machine, still turn the handle and then disappearing. And that's so sad.
Funny.
That's so sad. That sounds
awful. I wrote
awful.
a short story called Slot Zombies, and it had that exact theme to it, because you walk through there and they look like zombies, and they're just, pulling the handle. Back in the days when you pulled the handle, now you just push a button. They've made it even easier for you.
So you can do it quicker.
But exactly. But so here's the best advice I can give you, and when you're playing poker, because you sort of mentioned it anyway, is it's the little old ladies that are going to just cut you off at the knees. They're going to just slaughter you. So, you know what? They're the ones that you really got to be on the lookout for.
Actually, women in general can be really good poker players.
They totally can.
Because guys focus on other guys and reading them and, bet amounts, telling them how much, just telling by bet amounts. Women bet totally different than men. I swear. Mm-hmm. Every time I play, I still won, but, there's times I play women, they bet differently. They do things differently than guys do, and it can really throw your game off. It can really get you.
Possibly a little more intuitive as a rule.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I think they're better at reading, too.
And I think so too. And
oh yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, this is the major leagues out here, as you know. So start small. Start with like a $3 game. Yeah.
I've came close 3 times to winning a $10,000 seat to the World Series of Poker. I used to play. Remember Full Tilt Poker? Remember that back in the day?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure,
before they got busted and went down in flames. I used to play in their tournaments, and I made it through like 3 rounds. It starts out at 1,800 people.
It's actually pretty darn good.
Yeah, I made it 3 times. I made it through the final round and the final table to win, and I didn't win. And that's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of sitting there. I can never do that again. I could never go back to doing it.
It's that whole 10,000 hour thing, right? To get good at anything, you got to invest 10,000 hours in it. So,
well,
I can recommend a book. Maybe you've read it. It's called Positively Fifth Street, and it's about a journalist who covered the World Series of Poker and wound up at the final table. I mean,
sounds familiar.
He covered it from the inside out. It's a great book.
Positively Fifth Street.
Yeah.
It sounds really familiar. I haven't read it, but I think I've heard of it. That does sound really interesting. I'm going to go to commercial break so we can get back and open up the phone lines for anybody to call in tonight. Again, guys, we play music out to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, so don't freak out. We will be back with our guest, Brian Rouff, talk about his book, The House Always Wins, and more stories about haunted Las Vegas. Mike, I have some more stuff to talk about that, but you can call into the show after this commercial break. We'll be right back with you in just a few minutes. Tonight, our guest is author Brian Rouff, author of The House Always Wins. Like I said before, I just finished reading the book. I highly recommend it. If you like a good ghost story, you're interested in Vegas, this has got a great combination of both, some little bit of Vegas history and a really good ghost story. Highly recommend. We're going to talk more tonight about haunted Vegas and the different locations. Brian's not an expert. He's just like, he's lived there for a long time, so he's heard of these things. So we're going to talk about it. I know a little bit about it. I've never been to Vegas. I want to go. And like I said, not for the gambling. I'm not a gambler. I want to go because it's the mojo of Vegas is a paranormal melting pot, in my opinion. Its own little paranormal soup town. For so young, so many ghost stories already for such a young city. That's what interests me about it. And then the history with the mobsters that first ran Las Vegas and, the sad gambler stories there. They did not end well. You talk about the Luxor and people jumping out, the way they designed it. It's morbid, but that's how I am. I'm interested in these weird things. And the Vegas is as weird as it comes, in my opinion. I haven't been there, but that's my feeling. And that book, The house always wins definitely gives you that feeling. So let's go ahead and we're going to get to our guest, but I want you to know you can call into the show. And there's a number of ways you can do that. You can call in by phone at 219-230-4444. That's 219-230-4444. There's also a couple Skype ways to call in. You can call up and by Skype ID through the video call in at Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. You can also call in by Skype ID OOJBland OO. That's OOJBLAND OO. We will be taking your phone calls. The lines are open, and let's get back to our guests.
Hello?
I'm here. I hear you, Brian.
Oh, great. Okay. Hey, thank you for reading my book, by the way. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for
very
sending
much.
it to me. It's one of the perks of getting to do this show is getting a free book to read. So I thank you.
Well, I tell you what I'd be willing to do, and I'm having so much fun tonight anyway. If you want to give away a book on the air to one of your call-in listeners, I'd be happy to do that. Just get their name and address, and I'll ship one out.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. I can have them messaging me here. All right. First caller into the show. Well, you want to do it that way? First caller into the show will win a free book from Brian. Am I getting your last name right? I had a friend that had the same spelling. He pronounced it Rouff.
Yeah, everybody pronounces it differently, but you've got mine correct.
Okay, I had somebody actually knew somebody that had the same last name here, and so I'm like, I think I got it right because that's how they pronounced it, and it was the same spelling. So okay, so make sure. Never got to ask that before the show. I'm like, I'm probably butchering it all night. Sorry.
Nah, we're good.
But we were talking, about Vegas and being such a young town and the hauntings. That you mentioned earlier the MGM Grand. It was 1980. 85 people perished in a fire there, and they didn't really tear the hotel down, right? I mean, they basically redid it, and it's now the Bali Hotel.
Yeah, correct. They remodeled. That was a very consequential fire from another standpoint, which is that it created a whole new set of rules and regulations and laws about protecting guests in large hotels. Their fire prevention sprinklers and ducts and things like that just didn't work. And in fact, most of the people that died, from what I understand, it was from the smoke inhalation, which went all through the hotel, and people died in their sleep. And I'm guessing that maybe that's conducive to ghost activity as well. If you go to sleep and something happens, you don't wake up. Maybe you don't know you're dead.
Right. I mean, there's
just a guess on my part, and as you said, I'm by no means an expert.
Oh well, I was to say, the stories I've heard that have come out of there. One of them to me is really freaky. I remember one story I heard on a podcast. I don't remember one. It's been a while, but it stuck with me. And it was at what used to be the MGM Grand. It was in Bali's hotel after the fire and everything. Somebody seen an old woman at the slot machine, but she was on flames while she was at the slot machine, like on fire.
Wow!
I thought that's.
I just got chills from that. That is, I'm creeped. I'm a little creeped.
But she was still going at it. That's what is really
well, there
creepy.
you go. That's what we're saying. I'm sure that when the fire swept through the casino, that there were people that did not want to leave the crap table or blackjack or the slot machines or whatever in those days. Yeah.
We do have a phone call, and this will be our winner. Great. And I knew he would be the winner because he's always the first to call usually, and I love it because he's got such good questions, and I think he would totally enjoy your book, or whatever, any of your books probably. Is Zach? How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How you doing?
Doing really good. You have a question for our guest tonight?
Yes, sir, I do. I just have two questions, and I promise to keep them very brief. Brian, it's very nice to meet you, man. Love hearing what
Likewise.
you're saying.
Thank you for calling.
I know that I heard that I know that you based a lot of your material in your book based off of mobster spirits. But my first question to you is, based on your own either experiences or just stories that you have you heard any stories regarding any Mormon spirits? Because at least for Las Vegas history, I mean, the Mormons were one of the first people to actually go into the Las Vegas area. And I think they have there's an old fort that's right over there in Las Vegas still. Have you heard anything about that? Or
Not specifically, and you're right. I mean, other than the Native Americans, the Mormons were the first ones, and there's not much left of it. But if you come out here, you can visit the Mormon fort. It's kind of how the city started, or the development started. So I haven't heard that specifically about Mormon spirits. I can tell you that, and I'm sure a lot of people know this, that Howard Hughes brought in all Mormons to run his hotel casinos because they didn't gamble, they didn't drink, he trusted them completely. And, some of them are gone, and I'm thinking if there are Mormon spirits, they may be more modern than, going all the way back to the fort days.
Oh, true. Howard Hughes, that's an interesting subject when it comes to Vegas, and that's a whole other interesting subject.
Other subject, yeah.
Oh my
Before
God,
Wynn, before Steve Wynn, with this most recent set of redevelopment, Hughes was the guy. That was the Desert Inn and a number of his properties that were very famous at one time.
Oh, yeah. Zach, did you have another question?
Yes, I did. All right, Brian, based on, like I said, your own experiences as well as stories you've heard, when you're thinking about the whole entire Las Vegas metropolitan area, so Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Summerlin, Paradise, Enterprise, where is a lot of the paranormal activity in Las Vegas area? Where is it mostly concentrated at?
Well, from what I've heard, it's a lot. So much of it is on the Strip. And then the surrounding areas, you've got some of these homes that have become museums, like the Liberace house, for example, is a museum, and I've heard there are spirits there, for example.
I would be interested, actually.
You've got a lot of other houses that people don't know about. There's an underground home. Have you heard of that one?
I have heard about that one.
And there may be some stuff going on there. So, and I tell you what, this just recently came to my attention, but I'm sure it's old news to you guys. There have been a lot of sightings of Tupac on the corner of Flamingo and Koval.
Yes.
Which happens to be the corner where he was killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of that.
So much of it is involved around the Strip. I mean, there's so much tragedy. There's good times, but there's a lot of tragedy around the Strip and downtown as well. So that would make sense.
But like Tyler brought up in the chat room earlier, Vegas has so much electricity, so much neon, so much electronics, everything concentrated in one area.
So much emotion, though, too. Think about the emotion.
Exactly.
It's like you said, the neon lights, electricity, and then the emotion of people, ups and downs. People having the time of their life, and people like having the worst time of their life. They lost everything. Yeah. The amount of emotion. And I do believe that it fuels paranormal activity and leaves an imprint. So that's really interesting. Well, thank you, Zach, for calling in. Get me your address, Zach, in Messenger, and you just want me to email that. Do you want me to email that to you, Brian?
That would be great. Zach, I'll get one out to you right away. I really appreciate the call. Good questions.
He always does.
And thank you so much, Brian, for answering my questions. I mean, I've been to Las Vegas twice. It's one of my favorite places to go to. I'm about 4 to 4.5 hours away. I live out in the Phoenix area. So
great.
Definitely. Yeah. Next time I'll definitely do a little more in Las Vegas regarding the paranormal because like a lot of tourists, I'm pretty much there for the gambling aspect. So.
Right. So,
we got to go together.
Well,
Zach.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
Hey, why not? Someday, man. Someday.
Yeah, we won't go gamble. We won't go gamble. Maybe play a little poker, but we'll go hit all the haunted locations. Have a great night, Zach.
You too, brother. Take it easy.
Yeah, like Zach Bagans Haunted Museum, all those things. There's so much more, like you said, in Las Vegas now than it's just gambling. When you brought up Liberace's museum, I didn't realize, I forgot that, that's there. I've always been interested. I wish I had more of the details. I have it in my paranormal notes, you could call them. But there's an interesting story from about Liberace after he passed in a town. It's in, I want to say it was in Europe. There was a town. And the town must have been big Liberace fans, or he had something to do with the town. I wish I had all the notes on it, but he actually appeared. There's like 1,000 witnesses to him appearing in the sky playing piano the day after he passed. Like this whole I know it sounds crazy, but it was actually witnessed by lots of people that they said they saw Liberace playing in the sky. I'm not joking.
Isn't that? I am surprised a religion hasn't sprung up based on that.
There might be after
right?
that. I think there is something like that. Yes, like the Liberace. If there, that guy would have to be an amazing ghost. Really
right.
amazing.
I've never
ghost.
heard that story,
Yeah.
but that wouldn't surprise me, right?
But
he was that flamboyant.
And if there was any place for like celebrity ghosts to want to hang out, if they had a choice in it, Las Vegas is on the top of a lot of them. Their lists. The Rat Pack, Elvis, I mean, all these performers.
Oh yeah,
that this is going to be the place they're probably going to chill. They're going to probably hang out in their old jaunts if they're still there.
Right.
Quick.
Hey, they're probably mad that the Sands is gone. I'll tell you that.
You wonder. What that effect was. You tear something down like that. What happens to those spirits? What happens to do they just keep trucking on into the new casino built on top of it? Half the time it ends up being a parking lot. The casino's next to it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now lately we have a place called the Neon Museum where somebody got a good idea not to get rid of all this stuff, but to especially the signs, the neon signs.
Oh yeah.
And it's open to the public now, so when you're in town, put that on your to-do list as well. So a lot of iconic architecture and things that they've saved there.
Yeah, see, that's where as a tourist, if I ever get to Las Vegas, that's the kind of stuff I'm going to be hitting up, is all the historic stuff, all the, of course, the haunted stuff. But I do want to, check out, one I'm a big Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas movie fan and book. So, there's stuff I want to check out. I want to see Circus Circus. That has some really crazy paranormal stories to it, too. I think one of them, Room 123, I believe it is. Out at Circus Circus, a woman shot and killed her child and then killed herself, and people hear the woman behind them saying, "Help me." Or they'll hear them in different rooms, different rooms reported.
Right.
People on the floor, casino floor, have heard her saying, "Help me." And that's pretty creepy. Circus Circus, that's been around now for quite a while. So you definitely...
Long time, since the 60s.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say get there quickly because it may be slated for the Wrecking Ball.
Really?
It may be next on there's a number of ones that probably are not long.
It's like an amusement park.
I know. But they haven't put any money in it. I mean,
Yeah.
the amusement park they have, that's the, I forget what they call it now, but as far as Circus Circus itself, other than the steakhouse, which is still really good, and it's called The Steakhouse, but the property is in horrible shape, and it wouldn't surprise me if, they get rid of it and make way for something much
right. This
more
is the way of
profitable.
Vegas, man. The way of Vegas.
It really
They have the biggest, the big top at Circus Circus is like the biggest one in the world.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's
what's
another
there.
place I've not set foot in probably 15 years. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, my favorite scenes, and I have to bring up Fear and Loathing, but my favorite scenes that they're walking into Circus Circus high on ether. They're like,
Right.
you just appear drunk, and they just let you on in.
Oh yeah.
Get your money.
It's not in the best part of the Strip these days.
No, I bet not. Yeah, that's
grandmother crawling up your leg with a knife in her mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
I've tried to find that
That's
audio
the thing
clip
is you don't have to be on any of that stuff to still realize that Vegas has its strange moments.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Now, when you went into you write these books about Vegas, your other books are probably more not paranormal-esque. They're probably more like crime, or are they more when you write about Vegas, what do you write about?
Well, the other books are more a little more noir, and from a male perspective, I wanted to try something different with The House Always Wins and write it from the standpoint of a 25-year-old young woman, because my other books are all more of this hard-boiled kind of thing. In Dice Angel, our main character owns a bar, and he hooks up with a woman who claims she can bring him luck at craps. And I used to see an ad in one of our local papers all the time from a woman claiming she could do just that. And I actually took her up on it, and we went gambling, and I lost all my money in like 5 minutes.
So she didn't work.
No, not at all. And she was chanting and doing all this weird stuff. She was just like a burnt-out old hippie. But I got so much great material that it was well worth it. That's the best money I ever spent. So the character I created in Dice Angel, I named her Amorous Dupree. In real life, the woman's name was just Julie, but so that wasn't that exciting. But most of that character came directly from stuff that I experienced when we went out gambling.
So does she just advertise pay me or whatever, and I'll take you out, and you're going to have really good luck, and you're going to win?
That pretty much. It was a little more succinct than that, but she said, I will bring you luck at craps, call Julie, and then it had the phone number. And
wow.
So I did, and I realized on the phone that I was pretty much hitting the jackpot with that one.
Of material, not literally hitting the jackpot at all. Right?
Exactly. And that was at Luxor because she said that pyramids have magical properties. So, which they might.
Of course you would.
But not for me that night, at least as far as my bankroll was concerned.
Right.
But as I say, I'm glad I did it.
Well, it sounds like hiring the violinist, and you don't really want the violinist to play the whole time you're there, and it's a little bit awkward. Well, we hire the person to give you luck, and there's no luck. It's got to be kind of awkward at that point when you lost all your money. Now what?
Well, her deal was that she would get, I think, 20% of the winnings or $50 flat.
Well, I guess that's not a bad deal. Here's $50.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. So I didn't play. Because I had about $200, so I lost that, and then I gave her the 50 on top of it.
I think it was. I don't know if it was Circus. There's a story, one of those probably urban legends, but of Vegas, of a haunted craps table. I think it was a craps table. Yes, where for 11 weeks or something like that, it was like everybody was winning. And then finally,
I missed out on that one.
Yeah, you did. And
right.
The story goes that the casino finally shut it down and were afraid of the table. Actually, afraid of the table, and had somebody take it out and destroy it.
What a great story.
Yeah.
Right?
But you imagine, oh my God, if spirits could, if you were a spirit and you died in Las Vegas and you died because, let's say, you committed suicide because you lost all your money and you're pretty pissed at the casino, what a way to get back at them. Just a little of your spirit energy and push those craps for everybody and just start taking their money. That would be perfect.
Why not?
There's a story idea there for you, man.
No doubt. I bet it's probably been written. I'll have to research it first.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody's written a story about that, but I always thought that was an interesting Las Vegas tale I heard once, that there's this craps table.
I love that.
I like haunted object stuff, stuff, it amazes me. The stories you hear about objects and even cars that are haunted and stuff. How a spirit attaches himself to an object and what it could do. I guess that's my my Twilight Zone fandom coming through. Those kind of ideas, but.
Or Christine, Stephen King, right?
I'm a big Stephen King fan. A lot of haunted objects.
Me
Stephen
too.
King. Oh, I love Stephen King.
Yeah.
You talk about when you're talking about writing. I read his book on writing. Now I totally lost the thought of what the title was called.
It's called On Writing.
On Writing.
Right?
Duh. Yes,
yeah.
On Writing. My mom gave that to me for a birthday gift, trying to help me out.
It's a great book.
It is a really good book. He described writing, we talk about writing fast, as digging up a fossil. It's there. It's already there. He imagines that, like us, there's something magical to it, and the story's already there. But you need to, you can't go at it with a jackhammer. You got to take fine little brushes to it and pull it out. But he also says, write fast, write fast. And every author I've ever wrote a book about writing or heard them talk about it, they all say the same thing: write fast. That's the one thing I got to get over. I got to find my way to write fast, not lose it, because I've had a lot of dead novels.
Got it. Yeah, I think the key is to not worry about anything in the first draft and just get it down, and then you're going to rewrite it 10 times anyway.
Right.
So just get it. Get those thoughts out of your head. That's the most important thing.
Our program director for our Late Night in the Midlands radio network, Ira Robinson, he's an amazing author. I don't know how many books that guy pumps out a year.
Really?
Now he does. I'm so jealous. So dude, you got to help me. We got to write a book together. Help me out. Show me how you do it. Because he's able to put out these incredible books, and I think just recently he finished a book listening to the show, and I'm like, man, I couldn't do that. I gotta I guess my brain's got to be focused in on it. I don't know.
Me too. I've got to have total silence. I do most of my writing early in the morning, and I can't even have music on.
Yeah, I know. It gets too distracting. That's why I haven't gone back to writing in a long time, because since I've had my kids, there is no quiet until it's too late. And my brain's just not there, They're up way too early for me to beat them.
There's never a good time,
Yeah.
There's never a good time. You just gotta, they say there's never a good time to get married, have a kid, open a business, or write a novel. You just gotta do it.
We're talking with our guest, Brian Rouff, the author of The House Always Wins. If you want to call in, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can call in by phone at 219-230-4444, 219-230-4444. There's also the Skype ID OOJBlandOO or OOJBLANDOO. Call in, and especially if you got a Vegas ghost story. I think me and Brian would love to hear it. But speaking, have you stayed? When you go have a staycation, you stayed at the one place. Have you stayed in any of these other hotels ever, like in one of their rooms or anything like that?
Not any of the other ones that are supposed to be haunted. Generally speaking, we'll do a staycation kind of on the outskirts of town, maybe out in Summerlin, or we have big artificial lake out here called Lake Las Vegas. What a coincidence. And they're pretty new, and it's 20 minutes from our house. But if you pretend, you can pretend that you're someplace really far away. And I think that's the key, because it kind of looks like something you'd see in Italy, or like a big villa in Spain or something. So, but I don't think those places have been around long enough to really have any kind of a haunted pedigree.
Right. Well, one of the reasons. Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
I want to say one of the things in the book is your character Anna. She's like driving around. They're trying to find a house with a realtor, and she complains about all the houses looking the same. And I've never been to Vegas. I have no idea, but that's the reason they end up picking the house. The original house that you kind of had a little bit of the haunting experience, was it very much like the house in the book? I mean, was it different than all the other houses? It was built that long ago?
It's exactly like the house in the book. In fact, if you go on the web and you go to livinglasvegas.com and put in some hyphens, living-las-vegas-.com. I wrote an essay around the time the book came out in October of last year, and we only have about 8 or 10 photos left from when we were living in the house. And unfortunately, long after we sold it and moved away, the house burned down in 2014, which is its own kind of story. We think maybe there were squatters living in it or something, because we were still coming out of the recession. But there's some photos of the house, and the way I describe it in the book is exactly what it looked like.
Wow. I love big houses and the older ones and the architecture. And like I said in the book, she's like, I don't want these like these duplicate-looking copied homes. I want something nice. Is it that hard to find a house like that in that area?
It really is. I mean, there's certain neighborhoods that are distinctive. There's one that's called the Scotch 80s, and it was built in the 50s by a lot of rich people, many of whom were mobsters, many of whom were casino owners and operators who were also probably mobsters. And it still has its original characteristics, and every house is different. But anything built starting around the 70s is mostly very cookie cutter. And I know back east they don't have this stuff called stucco, but it's just some kind of a thing that gets blown onto the exterior of the house, and it's sort of puckered, it's textured, and I guess it might be good for holding up to this weather. Like today, it was 111.
Oh, geez.
It's a typical July day. That's not even hot for here, but it holds up better than paint, to the environment. But everything looks pretty much the same from about 1970 on, I would say.
Seems to be the fate. I always say, I've said it more than once on this show, seems to be the fate of a lot of haunted houses is to die by fire. It seems like.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it seems to happen a lot. We've talked about our friends Jen and Kevin Malik. who have a show, Paraversal Universe. They're in Wisconsin and part of the Summer Wind Association. I'm sorry, Jen, if I don't remember the name of the association you have for Summer Wind, which is a haunted mansion there, and it died by fire. There's a laundry list of haunted locations. I can think of some in my own area that once existed are now gone because they burnt down. You said squatters. I think it's a lot of times that. Sometimes it's the people that live around the area don't want the house there anymore because too many kids are going into it.
Maybe. Yeah, they never really figured it out. It made the news. I mean, also if you go online, I think some of the local stations had video of the house burning down. I was sad. My wife has a different take on it. She said that house deserved to go out in a blaze of glory.
Oh,
she
really?
Said rather than, because it had been empty for years, the guy we sold it to, I guess, couldn't make the payments, and then it just sat there. And it deserved a better fate than just sitting and rotting, And so she felt like it was a good way for it to go out. And in a way now, this book is a tribute to the house in a way.
Oh, I could definitely see that. Definitely, especially since you said it's based. One of the things is the in the book, the history, the Meyer in the book. He had all these famous people coming through his house. Did you kind of have that? Did you look into the history of the house and see that it had that whoever because it was kind of cool. He was talking about I remember the celebrities he had in the house. I'm trying to remember what it said in the book, but did they
the
have
Rat Pack, Elvis,
Rat Pack,
Dangerfield,
yeah.
Cosby. Yeah, absolutely. As I say, the guy that owned it was named Jack Eglash. He was a very well-known orchestra leader for the Sands in its heyday, and he built that house as a house to entertain a lot of the people that he worked with, which would have all those guys were in that house: Elvis, Sinatra, Sammy Davis, Dean Martin. His kids and grandkids are still in town. He's not with us anymore.
Right.
But I've spoken with them, and when they were little, they met a lot. They met Elvis when they were little, who had been in that house. The house was so interesting because it had, for example, and I described this in the book, an indoor-outdoor swimming pool that you could swim from the backyard under a glass partition into the master bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah. And we brought that pool along with the rest of the house back to life.
Wow.
So it was just a swamp when we bought it. But my daughter's the one that really lobbied for the house, and she had envisioned what it looked like and what it could be.
Well, did she have a vision like Anna? Because there's that moment in the book she kind of walks in and she sees it as how it was. Did your daughter have that?
Exactly what happened.
Really?
It's exactly what happened.
That's a paranormal experience.
The minute you walked into the house, and she was already an adult. She was already in her early 20s, I think, when we bought the 19, 20, 21, something like that, when we bought the house. And she's the one, just like Anna, that said, what about that place? And it wasn't even on the list. So a lot of it is based on, loosely or otherwise on real things.
Well, yeah, because like I said in the book, Anna walks in and she has this moment where they first see it and it's completely decrepit, and the next thing you know, she's like seeing it as how it used to be and how beautiful. I can only imagine what your thought was is like if your daughter was wanting this house and it looked as bad as you describe it as in the book, is like, oh no, this is going to be so much money, and
that and the work. Yeah, that's all we could see was money and work. But we know our daughter, and she's stubborn, and when she sets her mind to something, we made it happen, and it was a great experience. And I really did love living there. It was something that I would not want to trade away, but it was also an investment. It was also a money-making proposition.
They also say, paranormal, and one of the theories in the paranormal community is that when you're remodeling a house or changing stuff in the house or bringing it back to life, that it kicks up activity. For you guys, when you first started, it was starting to get remodeled and all that. In the book, they kind of all do it, that they have contractors and that, but they put a lot of the work in themselves. I don't know if you were there when it was being remodeled or if you heard anything from the workers.
Yep, we did the same thing. We did a lot of it ourselves, and then what we couldn't do, we brought in professionals.
Did you feel like any more weird experiences were started to happen when you were remodeling the house?
Yeah, well, yeah. The more that was the real thing that was the absolute impetus was the more we brought the house back, the more those things happened.
And was the original I forgot his name, Jack English, or I missed totally.
He was still living, so it was
living?
not him. Yeah, it was not him, but there may have been somebody else associated with that house in some way.
Well,
he didn't pass till 2006, and we sold the house in 2005.
Well, you think all those good parties he had there, some of those people that are now gone had good times there. Maybe they came back, or it's just in the impressions.
It's entirely possible, right? Yeah, that they wanted that they associated that with such fun. I wish I'd been at some of those parties.
Maybe if you...
He had state-of-the-art stuff from the 50s and 60s that we didn't even, and I think I put this in the book too, that we didn't know how to work it. And then all of a sudden my wife opened a drawer that she'd never opened before and found all of the original manuals to show how to work these old blenders, and there was an ice cream parlor that was built into it. There was a weird range, cooking range called Phasar, and we could never get it to heat up. And then we found out that it only worked with certain kind of pots and pans. I think they had to be aluminum or something.
Oh, so, yeah.
The whole place was just fascinating. It was it really was like a museum.
If the walls could talk, but like I said, some of these places, people say, especially in energy and emotions. We were talking about Vegas, how that leaves imprints in the paranormal. He had these parties. I actually think my video engineer has found pictures of the house, maybe that he's probably been searching online.
Oh, how cool! Yeah, and there should be one of that pool I'm talking about.
He's showing a pool right now, yeah, and it's incredible.
That's the one.
Oh,
yep.
Wow. That is incredible. My wife wants a pool.
There's one with a dining room. I think, is there a suit of armor in the dining room? Does he see that one?
So far, I've just seen a picture of the pool. So far, I just saw the picture of the pool. But
I'm glad you guys found that.
Yeah, Jeff's amazing like that. When I get guests on, and I never know what to tell him to prepare for the show, but he'll find it in the middle of a show and throw it on.
That's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, Jeff, if you find any more pictures, I'll keep my eye out, see because we're sharing it up on the screen here. For people listening on Late Night in the Midlands, again, I remind you, we are a webcast as well. We're on Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup Facebook page where we're a webcast. You can see these pictures. So you can always go back for seconds. We do post a show up on YouTube. Looking like he's got another picture up here, like a bath. I don't know if it's a bathroom or whatever, or these curtains. I don't know.
Probably. Yeah, there were a couple of bathrooms, I think, that we had photos for.
Looks incredible, though. Oh, another picture of the pool area. Wow. Holy moly. And what was it that finally said, I'm going to move out of this place? Because this place is gorgeous. You guys did an amazing job.
It was a family discussion, and it was just the upkeep was very expensive, and as I say, really we did it as an investment, and so we stuck by that, even though it was kind of painful to move.
I bet. Gorge, I see the suit of armor. I see a suit of armor in one of the pictures.
Oh, do you see that now?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, wow. And it's funny, the house, it wasn't that far from the Strip, so maybe that's part of that energy that you're talking about.
Right. I that's why I've always wanted to go to Vegas. I just want to feel what it's like. I want to see what it's like, because I have an idea about the paranormal and how to, emotion and energy, and that, to me, that place is so different than any other city in the world. I've never been there,
Absolutely.
But for everything I read, everybody tells me the history of it, it's just so different than anywhere in the world. And just imagine what it's going to be like, if we're still around, we don't blow ourselves up 100 years from now, when it is an old city.
Right.
Because you think about...
And that's a pretty big if, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we tend to be on the cutting edge of all kinds of stuff, for good and for bad. But, you're exactly right. That's why I feel compelled to write these books, is because I want to try to get it right. There's so much out there about Las Vegas that's superficial, and from an outside perspective where people come in and they do a little research and then they think they understand us. And you can live here for, like most towns, you can live here for years until you really get it, I imagine that there's a number of distinctive cities, like in New Orleans or San Francisco. I understand, my guess is that there's equally, and they've got more history on top of it,
right?
But, that there's a lot of material there that hasn't been mined yet. But because, as we talked about prior to this, that everything is so compressed, I mean, we started as a town in 1905, but really it starts around the mid-40s, you know, with Bugsy and those guys. That's not a long time.
No, not at all.
And everything is super compressed here, and you feel that energy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the people that were there. I mean, we mentioned Howard Hughes before, you know. He was such a recluse. You know, he locked himself away. I remember the movie, I'm a big James Bond fan, Diamonds Are Forever. Remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
And
right.
they kind of had like a little bit of a Steve Wynn and Howard Hughes character in that, remember? That
yes.
like hid himself away in one of his casino hotel rooms. I think that's why, you know, those ideas that, you know, the rich and powerful there go there and can lock themselves away and be surrounded by this crazy, you would call it like kind of a paradise, kind of hell. I don't know. It's just such a mixture of different things in Vegas, and
that's the fun of it too. Yeah. You know, we those of us who live here, and I'm sure the visitors too, always say we have a love-hate relationship with Las Vegas. You see it at the airport all the time at McCarran, because you've got the people coming off the planes, you know, starting their vacation, and they're whooping it up, and they've been drinking already, and they're having the best time. And then you see the people, you know, waiting to depart, and they're just wiped out.
Yeah, right. My thing is, I'm not a big drinker, you know, and
right,
I can't stand people when they're drunk most of the time, and that's where I like.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I've not been a big casino person. That's why I probably haven't made it out to Vegas. But when I hear these stories and the history, and even if it's young history, in my opinion, it's not that old. It's so interesting, and it's the people that are there, the lives that are lived there, and the stories that interest me. That's why I want to go to Vegas. And people are like, "What are you talking about? I'm going to go there for the shows and the gambling." I'm like, "No, not me. I'm weird. I'm a paranormal nerd, man. There's so many different things I would go there and not even think once about gambling."
And we are surrounded by some beautiful areas, like Red Rock, for example.
Oh yeah.
You know, to go out there, or Mount Charleston, which is only maybe about 45 minutes from Las Vegas, and it's a really beautiful 12,000-foot mountain with skiing and all kinds of stuff. There's so many things to do close by that people don't even realize, because most of them don't come out here for that. Most of them come out here, and then the lake, even though it's not a real lake, but it kind of is. You know, I mean,
is anything real in Las Vegas though?
Not really, not even a lake. You make a good point, right? It's the world's largest swimming pool.
Yeah, it's like, but that's what's so amazing. Why I want to go to Vegas. It's just like it's the most man-made city. You know, it's the most
right.
It's everything is an illusion in a way. You know, it's a perfect place for the magicians, for David Copperfield and all those guys to do their shows. You know, because the city is like a big illusion. You know, the way that
it really is.
The mirage.
Yeah. And the way they market it. And you know what? You know what we're selling out here? We're selling hope. It occurred to me one time.
Falsely selling, maybe, too.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
You know. Well, they used to have a campaign that I thought was brilliant. It was for Megabucks, which is our big networked-in slot machines. And you know, the jackpots on those are equivalent to, like, the lotto. You know, we don't have lotto out here because it competes with the casinos. But the campaign for Megabucks was one pull can change your life. Wow. And I always thought that was a brilliant marketing, message.
It would get me, because one of the reasons I never want to play slots is like, I'm going to put my money, I'm going to win enough to go play again. You know, if I want to waste my time, I want to play where I can retire and I have to go back to my job the next day. You know?
And that is the dream, isn't it?
Oh, and it's crazy the amount of money people have lost. I remember I was into watching the World Series of Poker and reading a lot of the books about poker. And what was the name of that book again?
Positively Fifth Street.
Positively Fifth Street. I want to look into that because I read a lot of poker books back in the day, and a lot of talk about Vegas in those poker books. But I can't remember the name of the poker player, but there was this poker player who like went up to like he got his bankroll up to like $50 million playing poker, and then you got to be good, really good at this game to do that. And then and then he turns around and goes and plays craps and loses it all. And goes right back to doing it all over again.
That sounds like a guy named Stu Unger.
Yes.
Does that ring a bell at all?
Yes, Stu Unger. That's who I was trying to remember. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, he was a legendary guy. He actually was the world's greatest gin rummy player.
Right.
And then he also won the World Series of Poker 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
but he was super self-destructive. You're right. He'd go play other games that he wasn't any good at, where the odds were not in his favor, and he was a big druggie. And he actually died at a young age, probably early 40s, and it might have been in one of the like seedy motels here in town, like the Oasis or one of those. I don't know if that rings a bell.
It does.
He could be haunting Vegas for all we know.
Still at
but
the poker table.
That's a really legendary guy. A really legendary story.
Thank you. I was trying to remember the name. It's been years. Jeff that quick pulled his picture up and had it up there a second ago. Already he's got another picture of him up there.
Jeff is good, man.
He is. Yeah.
We all need a Jeff, don't we?
But yeah, somebody like Stu Unger. I mean, it's incredible. Like how you talk about people going there with hope. It seemed like he didn't even care. He didn't even care about the money. He just did not. It was not about the money, obviously, at all.
Not. For the guy, I've heard people say this before. For the real gamblers, they say money is just a way of keeping score.
Yeah, and that's crazy. I'm such a petty. I'm not the best person with money. I'm not saying I'm smart with money, but I worry about money and. I cannot. Like I said, I don't play with my food money. And that's what these people are like playing. Not just their food money; they're playing with everything. Their life at stake, literally.
Well, when they go all in with $10 million, they're not considering that money. That's just a way to win a tournament.
It's already
gone, right? Because if you're worried about it, you're not going to win.
Well, a tournament's one thing. A tournament, you put in your stake, you're in. That money's gone.
Right.
When they're playing these cash games, especially behind the you got to imagine back in the 60s and 70s, those kind of cash games were pretty dangerous.
That's where the real money exchanged hands.
Yeah. Oh God.
Not in the tournaments.
You could think there's some, no matter how destructive somebody was, some of these gamblers, there's so much high emotion in that moment when they're waiting for that flop to turn. And in that moment, somebody lost everything and maybe took a jump out a window or did something.
Right. And the bad beat stories. I mean, I can listen to those all day, but I just heard one recently where there was only one card could beat this guy, one card, and that's the one that came up. On 5th Street.
Of all the odds, and that card comes down on the 5th Street, and it's that card. It could have been any card.
It was that one card, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've watched my World Series poker. I've watched those cash games too, where they've put them up on live, where they show them playing these cash games for big money, and I couldn't imagine being in that moment, throwing in 250, 350,000 or whatever, and just losing it all. On that kind of bad luck. How do you walk away from that? How do you walk away like...
I'm guessing you've got a few sleepless nights when that happens.
Oh, my God. But they go back, and they do it again.
Right.
That's what's crazy.
I know.
But that's what I'm saying.
It's a different kind of personality.
But that's what I think makes Vegas so interesting. It has so many of those personalities. So many, it draws. Right. It's the mojo of the place. That's why it's like one of those places on my bucket list I got to go and see, because I feel like if there's going to be any kind of thing to prove my idea of how human emotion and energy like that can affect the paranormal, Vegas is the place.
Yep. Well, I'm sure there's some deals. I'm especially in the summer. If you can handle the heat, come out in August. There's probably all kinds of cheap airfares.
Actually was thinking about coming out in August on my own for, let's just, I don't want to get into it, but there's a certain radio host who wanted to do Area 51 event. I was like, I could stop off at Vegas.
Oh, how fun, right?
Yeah. That's the other thing. You talk about that. This is Paranormal Soup, so we go down all the rabbit holes.
Sure.
But, Janus Airlines, whatever, is what they say is the flight or the airline that flies into Area 51, and they fly out of Vegas to get there. And I'm trying to remember, there's a hotel that looks over that airport, and a number of people videotape. It's like an airplane with a red line across it or something like that. But I think it was called Janus. I might be wrong. Was the airline? But they fly. They know where people are. The employees for Area 51 are flying out of and flying into Vegas, or flying out of Vegas to Area 51. So it's all based out of there. So you could be sitting next to somebody at a gambling table, and they could be an Area 51 Men in Black employee, and you would never know.
You would never know. And don't forget, for years, Art Bell broadcast nationwide outside of Pahrump, which is only about 40 miles from Vegas.
Yeah. I'm a big Art Bell fan, and I was talking about Heather Wade is the radio host who has been on this radio network. I'm hoping she comes back, Heather. I hope things get better for you. Things have been bad. Art passed away, not this Friday the 13th, the one before in April, and
that got past me somehow.
You didn't hear about
I did not know that.
Yeah, he passed away. It was really sad. It's a big loss to the paranormal radio community. Even though he retired. He retired and handed his show to Heather Wade, who's an amazing woman, great host. Hope she comes back. She basically runs a show like he did, and that's who I want to listen to at night. Hope you come back, Heather. Hope things are better.
That would be great, and what better place to broadcast
and she's
that
right
type
there.
of show than
She's
from
in Pahrump.
here, right?
She's in Pahrump. She lives right there in Pahrump, just like he does. Does it in the studio he did it out of. So I hope she comes back because it's the feeling of being there in Nevada. There's something special about the whole state in a way that I want to go. I want to go so bad.
Well, we are probably the last of the pioneer states. I mean, there are fewer laws. It's pretty wide open still, and and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for people that, whether it's gambling or whether it's something completely different. Of course, anybody that opens a business, that's the biggest gamble of all, right? But there's so much opportunity for people with entrepreneurial spirit in this state, and Reno is another cool place. We could talk about that next time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, Jeff's just pulled up the pictures of the Janus. I think, is it Janus? I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while. The planes that fly out of Vegas.
It sounds right.
I think it is.
Yeah.
He's showing a picture of one of the planes up on here, and that's another spot I'd like to hit. I'd like just to take a picture of one of those planes flying out. It's interesting to me.
Well, listen. If you're coming out here, you've got my contact information. Let me know.
I will. One day.
I'll give you the nickel tour.
My parents went out there once without me when I was a kid. I'm gonna have to do that to my kids because it's definitely I don't know. I mean, I think they got more stuff than they did when I was a kid. But I got a 6-year-old.
But they tried making it family friendly, but it kind of didn't work.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. It's Sin City for a reason. You
actually want to come out here and not bring the kids. You know, what fun is that?
Right. So we're gonna have to get somebody to watch the kids for a week and come on out. That's gonna happen someday. Maybe when they're a little older.
Well, I hope.
Yeah, me too.
I hope you make it out here.
We'll go on a haunted tour. We'll go check out some of the places. Zach Bagans Haunted Museum. Have you gone there yet to the Haunted Museum?
I have not. No, it has not fit in with my schedule.
Yeah, like you got to get a reservation.
I need to do. Yeah, and I think they book. From what I hear, it's super successful, and it's getting rave reviews. So I've got to get myself on that waiting list.
Yeah, I joke on Zach Bagans on this show, but in all honesty, that'd be one of my first stops in Vegas. I totally want to see it. You talk about a place that's going to collect haunted objects, and the building itself is supposed to be haunted. It's claimed. I don't know. It's Zach Bagans. Who knows?
Right.
That the building that he built the museum in, there was satanic worship. I don't know. You know how they are. How Hollywood effect in a way, even in Vegas, can happen. If that's
could
really
be
true.
PR. Who knows?
Be PR.
But satanic, and then there. I've also heard that maybe some mob hits. Down in the basement. So
but you wonder about these houses or hotels and places. Your character in your book, he disappears, right? Like they never knew where he died.
Yeah, and it happens in a basement of one of the hotels.
Right. So you wonder how many cement walls or how many places might still hold some missing mobsters that never were found.
Right. That's where I learned something in the research for the book. Everybody has heard the term he got 86'd from the casino, right?
Yeah,
meaning that he got kicked out.
Right.
But I learned what that meant. It meant in the old days they would take you 80 miles out of town and put you 6 feet under.
Yeah.
80, so that was the real 86.
What is it? Was it casino? They take them out to the cornfield. Oh, it's such an awful
that was
scene.
in Kansas. Yeah, the Spilatro brothers.
Yeah.
They were beholden to the Kansas City mob, and they did not do right.
Took them further out than 86 miles, but that's the kind of scene I picture out in the desert more, but not in a cornfield.
Yeah.
But not.
There's a lot of abandoned mines out here. If you're going to get rid of a body, what's better than an abandoned mine, right?
It's not like they have a lot of lakes they can throw them in, like
Well,
they did
they've
in
got
Chicago.
some. It's so funny. Our local paper years ago did an article about how really hard it is to dispose of a body. That people think it's easy, but it's not.
So let's give you
and
some
they were
tips
saying
how.
even if you, well, they said even if you're, they didn't give us any tips, unfortunately, but they said that if you take a body out to the lake and you tie it down with cement blocks and things like that, eventually it'll decompose and part of the body will come back up.
Yeah, the feet rip off.
Like
The gas.
yeah, so it's like, well, darn, I crossed that off my list.
Yeah.
And you can't burn them because they're mostly water. People think just a little lighter fluid and all that, but nope.
Right. No, it's a lot harder than you'd think. So you may as well just not kill anybody.
That would be the best bet. But you know that desert out there, Death Valley, and there's so many places they just got to go dig a hole. That's what they have to do. Nobody's out there watching.
That's right.
Sure.
There's a lot of cactuses or cacti out there that have been fertilized.
But you also think too, like I said, I think some of those buildings, some of the older buildings, the casinos, you wonder, one of these days they're going to tear down one of these older casinos or buildings or hotels and find a body. Because the mob owned the construction groups. They could totally put somebody in cement and bury them and nobody would ever know.
Oh, they're there.
That would not surprise me. Yeah, they're definitely there. And I even if they didn't kill people, there's all kinds of stories about taking some gamblers that they thought were cheating or just winning too much down into the basement, working them over pretty good. So.
I always thought that was the wrong thing about Vegas is them nailing the card counters, people that are naturally able to count the cards and beat the system. I'm like, well, how is that? I mean, don't call that cheating or kick them out. They're just using their brains.
Exactly. It's not illegal, but the casinos have their own policies and they can enforce them, any way they want. So, and then what happens is it goes on the wire, and they all communicate with each other. Yeah. And if you're kicked out of one, you're kicked out of them all.
Well, now they got facial recognition too. They just spot you right away.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Brian.
It's a real cat and mouse game.
I want to say thank you so much. Go ahead. We have a last minute here to give out any information you want to get out to the audience about yourself, your books, or where they can find you and your books.
Sure. Well, the newest one, The House Always Wins, and my other books are available on Amazon.com, along with 12 million other books, and then at any Barnes & Noble store, coast to coast. So those would probably be the two best places to get those. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this. Thank you for having me on. This is a lot of fun, and look forward to listening to the show.
Yeah, awesome. I will get you the link to the video aspect of it so you can listen. And I'd love to have you on again. If you read another book, definitely I'd be interested in reading it. I really did love this book, Brian. It was really good.
Thank you so much.
I highly recommend it to the audience. Guys, definitely check it out. The House Always Wins by Brian Rouff. Like I said, you can find it on Amazon. Check it out. It's definitely a very, very good read. Thank you, Brian. I will definitely love to have you back on the show again. We are going to be back next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel. Our guest is Karen No. I think I got that right. She is a medium and astral projector, I think, if I remember right. I'm sorry if I got the wrong, Karen. I'm reading her book next. I got to finish it this week. So we'll have her on, and we might be back for a 3-hour show next Sunday. I think we're going to try to do a 3-hour show. I've been loved doing that, getting extra time. Sorry I couldn't do tonight. I got to be up early tomorrow. So does our guest. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Go check us out at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup on our Facebook page. Check us out at Paranormal Soup or Jason Bland on YouTube. That's our archive. And go to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Do what you can. Subscribe. Donate. Without you, we couldn't do all these great shows and have all these great hosts on this amazing radio network. We are, in my opinion, the #1 paranormal radio network out there. You can't find so many good shows like you can here. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. See you next week. Have a great night.